When we're on. Hey everyone, Greg and Paul here today on Wednesday. Hopefully everybody's doing well, and we just wanted to try to cover a few topics. And as I think everybody knows, we're living in unprecedented times right now, and we hope you and your families are staying safe. We're encouraging everyone to lay as low as possible. Wash hands, all that hygiene stuff, spray everything down. Protect your grandparents, people like me, and hopeful that this little moment here, about 30-minute call is something that we can talk about with respect and without arguing. And we just want the discussion to remain respectful. So if you're out there and you've got questions, we want to encourage you to think about questions. We have the topics that we want to cover here today are title and mortgage, and we know ultimately what those two things lead to, and that is commissions, which are near and dear to each of us. So we have invited an expert in from each area, and so I want to welcome Josh Nawrot from Northern Mortgage and Wes Parkinson from First American of Michigan. How you guys doing?
Excellent.
Very good, thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. Glad you guys could take a half an hour out of your day here and work with us. We want to invite everybody to make sure to reach out, and if we don't get all the questions in before the end of this program, keep firing in, and Paul and I will try to make sure we continue to answer any and all questions or find the answers throughout the day.
Yep.
And so I just want to start out and tell you one quick story that popped up. And then I'm going to ask Wes and Josh a few questions here. So I get a call the other day from an agent, a 5-star agent, and the question went something like this. So Greg, I've got this deal. We're in the process. The inspections and everything are going fine. And it just so happens that my client works for a restaurant. And of course, we all know that on Friday they were shut down. And so do I say anything? Do I just stay quiet? What do I do? And I said, I can tell you what we don't do, and that is that we don't commit fraud. And how we would end up committing fraud would be to somehow stand up and say, or omit. And again, I think in this world, a lot of times you can get in trouble for what you do, but I think you can also get in trouble for what you don't do. So if you hide something or you withhold something that should be disclosed, and probably the fact that the person getting the mortgage does no longer have a job, that's probably a vital piece of information for the mortgage company. And so Josh, just thought I'd mention that and see what you would have to say about that.
Yeah, we definitely do not want clients committing mortgage fraud or fraud at all. If there's something that an agent is made aware of, we highly recommend, bringing that to the loan officer and talking about it. What we're now doing as a company is, it used to be verifications of employment were 10 days before closing, where now it's 1 day before closing. We have to call, we have to talk to the employer, make sure that they are still employed. And if they're in an industry that we know that is being shut down, there might be a follow-up question or two after that. So I would just recommend let's continue to stay in great communication with the agents. Sometimes they know things we don't know. We'll stay in great communication with them. But yeah, really, it's about doing the right thing right now, and committing fraud is not a good idea.
Hey, Josh, just a quick follow up on that. What if you work at a salon and you didn't lose your job? So you really what if you're in an industry where everyone says, "Hey, take 2 weeks mandatory vacation" or something like that, where you didn't lose your job, but they said, "Hey, you're still employed, but everyone's going to take the next week off unpaid, or next 2 weeks off unpaid."
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't chartered into that quite yet. Typically, we're already averaging income over the last couple of years anyway, and we do understand that positions kind of ebb and flow, and there's different points of the year where people are making more money, earning more money, or busy. So no, we're not holding that against people. I mean, teachers are are paid right now, but they're at home. There are some salons that are shut down, but we're not scrutinizing those businesses. We're mainly just after, the verbal verification of employment is, do they still have their job, and is everything still okay? And we've not seen any deals blow up with that yet.
Right. So Wes, let's come over to you here for a second. So from a title perspective, what are some of the issues and concerns that you have right at this moment?
So for us, the two big concerns are one, the counties and what decisions the counties have made. So there's a varying range of where they're at. Some are completely shut down, doing no recordings, like a Muskegon County. They've made a decision that they are not going to stay updated with recordings. They're not receiving recordings, and there's no ability to go into the county building to do searching.
Tell the agents why that is such a huge issue, the recording aspect.
So from that county perspective, it's twofold. One, because you can't get in there to search. So if you're an independent searcher, you're a title agency, and you want to go in and put a commitment together, they're not allowing public and foot traffic through there. So you can't get county records. You can go online, but oftentimes the county's depth only goes back X number of years. It might not be back far enough per the search standards of the specific underwriter. So you need to actually go into the county and get the records. The other piece of it is gap. And so if they're not updating recording going forward, as Josh mentioned earlier, with respect to first lien position in a mortgage and getting people qualified in mortgages of record, if they're not recording those, there is a potential more bigger risk of fraud. The other side are counties that are not allowing people to come in and drop off recordings, but they take recordings via e-record, such as Star Title does. You can mail them in, or they have drop boxes outside of the facility. That is the bulk of the counties right now are actually still updating and keeping recordings going. So that's concern for us. Number one is the recordings and how timely those are getting done. And then certainly the other piece of it is the ability to close. Getting people into the closing rooms, sitting down, closing, getting transactions done, while trying to eliminate the concern or the fear of, spreading the virus any more than it already has.
One follow-up question for both of you guys. Dave Wilson asked, is there anything happening behind the scenes here to make special arrangements to allow for e-signatures versus the constant need for wet signatures in both lending and in title?
Josh, you want to take it first?
Sure, absolutely. So yes, the answer is yes. We have e-signature capabilities for the initial doc package. For any updates, we have e-signature capabilities for pre-closing disclosures and updated closing disclosures. We do. We are still case-by-case meeting with clients at the initial appointment. We've taken a lot of safety precautions. Everybody gets a brand new pen. It's in its own little wrapping. All the surfaces are sanitized, no handshakes. So we are doing our very best in terms of social distancing, but still sitting down with these clients and explaining the mortgage loan application, going through the figures, and making sure that they understand. In our world, by doing that, transactions go substantially smoother from start to finish. If we do have to send out e-documents, or if we have to UPS out documents, then we will also be taking that extra time to go through the application and making sure that the clients understand.
So it's
too many times.
So it's possible, Josh, that you can begin and complete a mortgage application without a wet signature. Is that true?
Start to
finish.
That is correct.
All right.
Yep, all the way except for closing. E-signatures and closings are still a little
All right,
tiny.
Wes,
Now,
let's go over
real
to
quick there, but though let's go to Wes.
Wes, tell from your end, can you do a completely end-to-end e-signature closing, or I think I know the answer here, and I think the industry is working on it. But why don't you tell us what you know?
Right. Yeah. So the short answer, easy answer is no. You can't get from start to finish on either a cash deal or a mortgage deal yet, and it's something the industry is pushing for. What we're going through now is pushing for it more aggressively, but the state of Michigan does not have it fully approved yet. The rules, the regulations, all the platforms. Is again kind of going off a little bit what Josh said. A lot of the docs can be e-signed. Make sure that the lender allows for even their docs to be done that way. But the docs that need to be recorded at this point are not. It's not available in the state of Michigan. And then keep in mind when it is, not every county in the state of Michigan accepts e-recordings yet. The bulk do, but not all do. So we're still a little ways out. The president of the RD Association is out of Newaygo County ROD, and with talking with him a few weeks ago, he said he doesn't see it as a fully viable option even in 2020. That may change with this. We might speed it up with this, but as of a few weeks ago, that didn't look likely.
That answers my question. My question was, what if you were a betting man? What were the chances that something like this gets expedited in a worst case scenario to allow closings to continue happening if we weren't even allowed to have physical contact?
Well, I think one of the values that we do have is that a very large lender in our backyard, Quicken, has one of the platforms approved by the state of Michigan when it is ready to go. Nexus, it's their e-closing platform, one of 5 that have been approved in the state of Michigan for when they're ready to go. So I do think you get some of those entities like that are really pushing technology. That's going to help speed it up, especially in light of what we're going through now. I think in the meantime, some of the things that we're suggesting is, as Josh had said, new pens, clean pens, wipe off tables after every closing, only allow the people in the closing table that actually need to sign. That isn't always great for the real estate agent or the lender because they want to just see the closing through and make sure that everything went well and find out anything that could have changed or done better, or referrals or whatnot, but really only allow those in there that need to be. We had an agent in Southeast Michigan that asked this morning, is it okay if we send out a questionnaire in advance and ask them, if they traveled outside the country, are they feeling any symptoms? We're not going to tell them whether they should or shouldn't, but I think it's probably good practice to find out, the temperature, so to speak, of the clients coming in and out of the office.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Paul?
Yes.
Do you have any other questions?
Well, I can come up.
Yeah,
with...
let's go another direction here.
Right.
That was basically on what happens with e-closings, wet signatures, things like that.
Yep.
I don't know where to go from here.
Well,
guys, maybe what are some things that you guys are paying attention that maybe we're not aware of right now?
Yeah, so I think something that's really, really important for everybody to be made aware of is the massive influx that really every mortgage lender out there has taken on in terms of refinance applications. Northern Mortgage locally here is prioritizing purchases, so purchases are getting the first crack at bat. We want purchases to go smooth, but there's many lenders out there that have taken more applications than their staff can handle. There's a lot of lenders that have pushed staff to work remotely. Remote staff are not as efficient. Work still gets done, but it's not as efficient kind of in office. And I would be careful of turn times too. I think we can potentially see, depending upon how long this goes on, turn times go from 30 days to 45 days. I hope they don't go longer, but I would plan on that. And I would paint those client expectations going, hey, there's a lot of moving factors here. Lending slowing down, A lot of lenders are still moving quick, but across the board, if you're lining up back-to-back dominoes and transactions, as the agent, I would stay in touch with that lender and say, how are we doing? What's our turn time? That's kind of something that's not been talked about. Something that's important too for real estate agents, and I've had this conversation with Paul too, is agents cannot broadcast or post interest rates unless you're a licensed mortgage loan officer. Even sharing the Fannie Mae average interest rate could get a lot of people in trouble, because once you throw it out there, it's forever out there. And it just takes somebody, taking a screenshot, turning that into the state and whatnot, that people can get in trouble on. So you can tell clients rates are great. Rates do change about 6 to 8 times a day right now. They're up a little bit from how low they were last Monday and Tuesday. So it's important to paint realistic expectations. Don't advertise 2.65 when the going interest rate today could be 3.8 up to 4.2. So I think those are important things, at least from the mortgage.
Quick question, Josh. So let's say we're sending something out hypothetically to the agent community in 5-star. So we're talking to the 5-star agents. Are we able to talk interest rates to our own agents?
I believe so. I mean, I would maybe have that, still have a licensed loan officer have that discussion on what's going on with rates, what the national trends are. It's just the advertising of the interest rate. If you ever listen to like a Quicken commercial, they say, hey, rates are as low as XYZ today. And then there's 3 paragraphs of really fast disclosure and blurb and NMLS. And I think we have to be careful with that.
Josh, real quick here before we jump on to Wes. Two questions, or one question about, I guess it's a 2-part question on refis and what's going on with you guys. With the influx of refis and low rates, what impact is this having on appraisals? That's one. Are we going to see any issues with appraisals? But I think the question that I have is, for a lot of these people who are mid-refinance right now, do you see any concern for anyone who is in the middle of refinancing with their rate locks expiring due to increased turn times?
Absolutely, yes. So we're locking all loans. If it's a purchase, it's an automatic 40-day lock. Refinances are 55-day locks and going onwards. We are hearing that because the market is so volatile, rates were so low for a minute and now they're back up high, that rate lock extensions, it could be very, very tricky. The word kind of that's been passed down to us right now is close your loans within the lock period, because lock extensions are going to be expensive. So hopefully that loan officer is experienced and they are locking loans for longer terms, because you're right, we don't want to see somebody that's locked in at 3.5 last week and have that go up to 4.25. That would not be
Are
good.
you seeing any delay in appraisals due to the influx of refis and the low rates?
We haven't seen that yet, but in different parts of the counties across Michigan, that is possible. I mean, we're doing a loan in Tustin, Michigan right now, and the appraiser said, hey, we'll have this back to you in 2 weeks. We always try to order appraisals immediately. We're still seeing a few appraisal waivers here and there. Those are not as popular. That we haven't seen as many as we have last year per se. I think Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are pulling back on appraisal waivers. They're still out there in some case by cases, but yeah, I would highly recommend getting an appraisal ordered right away. That's what we do, and then we will cancel the appraisal if things get nutty with inspections and if we need to pull the deal. But we at least want to get it in the queue.
This one's for, I'm gonna direct this one to Wes, but it's for both of you guys. Do you recommend we start practicing only those who need to be at the closing table can be there, similar to hospitals only allowing one visitor? At what point do we, since we have to have wet signatures for these things, how do we go about this?
So we are suggesting to do that, just really to try to limit the amount of people in there, in the room. No sense in creating any additional needed exposure. Some of the things that we're hearing and we're suggesting is put the docs in there, let them review them, and then come back in, at the time that they're ready, give them a chance to, give the clients and the consumers a chance to read through them. Many of the docs that they can sign on their own doesn't have to be in front of the closer necessarily. I mean, you don't want them to sign something that they don't understand what the doc says, regardless of whether it needs to be notarized or not. But I would say that limiting the amount of time of the individual in there for sure. I'm going to say something quickly off of the question that Josh has just talked about as well. I would just say to the real estate agents, to the lenders, builders, just really have some patience with the title teams, because we were on a call this morning, on a national call, that many title agents buy product from us in Michigan. About 50 to 60 orders a day we get where the underwriter provides the search product or the commitment back. Our capacity is about 55 a day. But some of the areas that we use to outsource this work are completely closed down. And so where our average turn time is 96% in 3 days and 99% in 5 days, that's going to really slow down. So just make sure that you let Star, Matt, Deb, Phil, and the team know how quickly do you need the commitment. And if it's a 45-day lock and in 7 days on that commitment's going to be fine, just let them know. Give them that little bit of a grace, because the counties are ever changing. We're monitoring them daily. I called 15 of them this morning just to get updates. We're doing that every day and finding out, are they open? Are they open to public? When are they going to open to public? What's their ETAs right now? How many people are you letting in there per day? And that's changing every day. We're finding that's changing, especially with with the big counties.
I see we got a number of questions here, Paul. And I see
we have a couple
open
of questions.
houses, but they don't pertain to Josh and.
Some of these questions we'll respond to, guys, like the questions on open houses. We'll respond to. I do think that I have seen people, and Josh, maybe you've seen this already in some of the PAs you've been reviewing. But are you seeing people building in contingencies for delays or potential delays right into the purchase agreements or through addendums? Like, for example, buyer and seller agreed to allow for up to 30 days, of float time here in case of delays with lending, appraisals.
I guess that's a great question, Josh. Are you seeing some creative things right now?
We have not as of yet, and I would highly recommend doing that. I mean, anytime we enter in a purchase contract, it is a legally binding document. People are very jumpy right now. People are very skittish in some cases, and the more clear expectations that we can lay out day one, typically has great buy-in from all parties. Kind of leaning in on the whole purchase contract, discussion too. One thing I was really surprised about, anytime that there's like a snowstorm, a snow apocalypse or things like that, real estate tends to slow down. And I thought over the weekend, given what's been going on with COVID-19, we would see open houses slow down, contracts slow down. And I was really blown away by the amount of contracts that we saw come in on Monday and throughout this week. So real estate is still happening. And I think that's important for real estate agents to know and to tell their clients. I typically tell clients, if a blizzard happens and there's a lot of snow on the ground, that's a great opportunity to get out there while everybody else is distracted. I feel like the same thing could be had with COVID-19, where a lot of people are distracted, and now could be an opportunity to strike, especially if they're in a competitive price point. So real estate is still happening. And then lastly, from the agent's end, it's a great time now to check in with your clients to just see how they're doing. Don't post, hey, if you want to sell your house and buy, I'm your guy or girl. Just check in with people and be genuine. We've never, ever seen this, what's going on. We are all influencers. We're all public figures. Now it's not a time to get political on the socials. It's just a great time to love on your sphere, love on your group. And if you need something to do, check in with your people and just let them know that you're thinking about that.
We got another question here that deals with how much can you ask, whether it's the title company or the mortgage company. You've got somebody coming to your office. Can you ask, have you been out of the country? Can you ask, is there anybody sick in your home? I know that if you work for a hospital, they got to go through a whole series of things 4 hours before they go into work. Is there anything going on?
And to follow that up, are you guys doing anything in that arena right now by saying, hey, if someone is sick, what is the protocol? Even if someone has just a nasty
sniffly nose
or something like that, what do we do? How do you handle a closing if someone's visibly ill?
Well, ideally, it'd be nice if they gave you advance notice of, that they're not feeling well, of some symptoms they have. Regardless, I think one of the things that's going to come of this is just different practices on how we, and how we conduct our own work. I know I'm guilty as somebody who, when I'm not feeling well, I'm still there. I still go in. I still try to get my day done. I think that we're going to learn that, some of those practices probably aren't good. Even outside of the virus we're currently going through. This morning, as I mentioned earlier, we got a phone call from one of our agents in Southeast Michigan, and they got two affidavits that needed to be executed through the National Notary Association for every closing that they were using outside independent notaries that were signed up through the association. And they did ask those specific questions. And Adam, who called me, had said, should I get these executed at the table? And I said, I wouldn't wait till the table. I mean, don't you want to know if they've been out of the country? Don't you want to know if they've been ill? Don't you want to know if they've been in contact with somebody who has been, contracted or diagnosed with, coronavirus? So I think the more questions that you ask in advance, certainly it's a potential privacy thing, but I think most people are going to be appreciative and thankful that you ask those questions in advance, because they're going to know you're going to ask the other potential visitors to the closing as well.
Yep. So what do you do?
Yeah, and
So,
same here on the mortgage end, same thing. I mean, a lot of our pre-approvals are done over the phone. If they do want to have a brief meeting, we will ask them, is there anything that would prohibit us from meeting? Are you feeling well? I mean, these are serious questions. We're taking these seriously. Same thing for staff. If anybody even has a sniffle, a tickle in their throat, they will be either sent home, not come in, or we'll be working from home. So my staff knows that too. Fortunately, everybody's been really healthy and reporting in for work, but it's we're taking it in a day-by-day case matter.
Right.
But yeah, we are asking.
Here's a real life question for you. Brett Beamers, he's got a seller right now who lives in a retirement assisted living facility.
He's not able.
If he's unable to get away from this because they're on lockdown, maybe because he's obviously a very high risk person, what are his options to close this transaction?
Do they have a notary public inside the facility? That's the question I would ask first, because many of those, I know two coworkers of ours personally who have parents that are in those facilities. They're on lockdown. They can't even go and visit. So I would say first, do they have somebody on staff that's a notary? From a title perspective, if they have somebody on staff that's a notary, that's who I would use to help facilitate the transaction. If they don't have somebody, that's a notary, not speaking of the lending side, but on the title side, you might have to delay that closing. You might have to ask the administrative team there, do they have the ability to get anybody in who is a notary? Because the statute in Michigan right now states that you have to be live and in the presence of the person signing and executing in front of that notary. You can't, you can't do it from another room and bring it back over and say, hey, this person just signed this. That's not how the statute currently reads.
Okay. That's a good answer. All right, so question here. This is Leo Olson. He said, most agents get the closing disclosure ahead of time, but would it be advisable or even possible to get a copy of the entire closing package ahead of time so all parties could review the package from home, ask questions from home to limit the amount of time spent in the closing room? Or is
that's relatively common on the, when real estate attorneys are involved, right? They call them the attorney package. They want, the attorneys want the full copy in advance. I don't want to speak for the capacity of the title agencies to be able to do that. But I do think that that's a good idea. Get them the opportunity to read it in advance, maybe execute some of the docs in advance so that when they get to the closing table, the time there is a lot less. But, as Josh had mentioned earlier, it's crazy busy out there right now. Everybody that we're talking to, both on the lending side and the title side, they're as busy as they've ever been. The rates dropping, a week and a half ago or so, whenever it was, brought in a ton of refis. So to the ability that the title company has to do it, I think it's a great idea if it works for the lender.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, and what we're doing from the lending end on that, if I can throw 2 cents in here real quick, is we're taking some extra time with clients both on the initial loan estimate and on the final closing disclosure. Those 3 pages paint the roadmap for the entire deal. Rate, payment, cost, breakdown, everything. And, we're checking with clients now a day before closing. Did you have a chance to review that line by line? Would you like to do that now? And do you have any questions? I think we could even paint the picture that, hey, our goal for the closing is to get you in and out as quickly as possible. And I think if we set the tone of that closing, and if there's no questions leading up to it, I think closings can go really, really quick.
Okay, we had a quick question here about notaries and what do you need to do to become a notary. I know that what I would, number one, is I'd recommend to call our people over at Star Title, because we've gotten most of our staff notarized. So Deb at Star Title would probably be able to answer that question. But do either of you have a quick response to that, what it takes to become a notary?
I can jump in and take it quick. It's not hard. You got to get a bond, and you go in. I think you can pull the information down offline initially. You fill it out, you send it in. It's not expensive. And your licensed, your notaries in the county that you live in, but you'll actually have to go into the county building to do it, which for most of them right now are shut down to foot traffic. But if you're looking at a long-term solution, it's not hard. The information's online, and like Greg said, I would ask Deb to help facilitate it, because she's probably doing it often.
So hey, we had a quick question. Just not sure where that's going. An agent may think that it would be good to be a notary so that they could notarize their own stuff, but probably not a good idea to notarize your own stuff that you're working on. Any comments?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
That would be
the part.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you'd want to have distance between the parties, and that's ultimately what a notary brings in. There's no notaries on our staff because we really can't notarize anything that would be important, because we're all interested parties in the transaction.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
In the law, and when you sign up, they'll give you the rules and the regulations, but certainly the other piece of it is it's got to be arm's length transaction, can't be immediate family. And I would say, you would run the risk of somebody, coming back later and saying, you're a party to the situation. Of course, you wanted me to close this transaction. And even if none of that was true, I think defending it would be, probably far outweigh any of the benefits that you could get from helping.
So, all right. So we have kind of gone a couple minutes over here. Wes, we know we promised you that you could still get to your next appointment. There are a couple questions that Paul and I would like to tackle. You want to still do that, but I want to give Wes the ability to move along if you need, and Josh, or does that shut the whole system down?
I don't know. I guess it's up to Dom. We had a couple of just questions on here on best practices while we got everyone here. So maybe we'll let these guys go. We'll say thank you to Josh and Wes. Guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it on the short notice, guys.
No, you're welcome.
Did I disconnect, Dom?
Yeah, you're good. You're welcome. Hope everybody stays safe out there, and we'll all get through it.
And
as an industry,
we
we'll
will
work
get
together,
through
get through
it.
it.
Yes,
yep.
we will.
And maybe we'll do this again, guys, as things keep developing. If you guys are open.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you.
Yep.
All right. So for the rest of you that are still with us, there was a couple questions. One was on open houses and what we are doing regarding open houses. And so here's how we are looking at this. The agents are independent contractors, and we know that we think. Oh, did something just go
No,
out?
we're good because we can talk to these guys right here now.
So we're still good.
Take your earpiece out.
All right. And so as we look at this right now, it really becomes a question of the agent and their seller to have this discussion, number one. If they decide to have it, then we highly recommend that you go through a number of different procedures. And what we would recommend are that, number one, you have the sellers wipe down everything before they leave, sanitize, antibacteria, and then when the people come in, I would recommend that you are the one that opens doors, touches knobs, and asks the people not to touch anything. Number three, I would have sanitary things to give them on the way out, and I would encourage you to wash your hands after every event. No handshaking, probably no elbow bumping or fist bumping or anything. I've heard people only allowing one party in the house at a time to keep the public apart, and then You could have them text you, give you a number, and then they could sit in their cars. You could invite them in as one party goes out, line them up in a queue. I don't know how to do all that, but these are things that we're hearing. And then, of course, the big thing that we're hearing about is video open houses. Paul, a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, people are just going to the house. They're doing a walkthrough, kind of doing an Ask Me Anything style walkthrough like this, where you're just hanging out at the house on a virtual stop in for the 10-minute open house online. It's go ahead, Dustin, ask away. It's not gonna be the same as walking through the house. So, but anyways, that's what you could do. It's basically a house tour.
Yep. So I didn't see.
Dustin's got a question.
I know he
here.
does, but there is there. Did he send it yet, or is
No.
there still are there others up above here?
That was
yet?
pretty much all of the questions, Greg. That we pretty much touched on all of them.
But the open house was the one that we did want to
We just talked about
address.
it. Yep, just talked about it.
And so if you have, we're waiting right now for one more question to come in. But if you have questions, send them in,
Got it on here.
and we will we'll continue to answer.
Dustin asked a question, maybe it's been covered already. Are most people recommending listing homes this week or waiting to list after the craziness? So I have a few thoughts on it. We are seeing a lot of listings actually going up. Yesterday, an agent came into the office, picked up 2 new signs for listings, popped 2 new signs in the yard today. We are seeing listings going live.
We're seeing lots of, I mean, we thought possibly that the weekend was going to be a little bit slower because of all the news. And we had, I think, 50 new deals were written over the weekend, and there was another 30 or so yesterday. So we've had over 80. I mean, that's as busy as we've ever been.
Yeah, so we've received quite a few new pendings. We got a bunch of EMDs rolling in. We've heard offers. We've heard multiple offers are still going on. I think that some of these people had 4 to 5 offers, and they were wondering, well, would I have had 12 offers if this wouldn't have happened?
I heard a story that somebody had, not this weekend, but the previous weekend, had 70 people go through.
But let me talk really quickly on the pent-up demand.
Yeah.
So we still have a supply and demand issue, regardless of what's going on right now. So we have so many buyers, and we've been in such a short supply of homes, 1.9 month supply, 1.4 month supply.
It's almost down to 1.
We're nearing a 1 month supply. So what this says, though, is that even if half of those buyers walk away, you're still going to have a bunch of ready, willing, and able buyers who are going,
multiple offers.
We're not waiting to buy, we have to buy now. So I really don't think that, I mean, it's really up to your seller. We've heard that some sellers are asking to hold, hey, let's just see what happens with the craziness here. But I will tell you that if your clients want to list, there are a lot of ready, willing, and able buyers out there who are actually looking at this as an opportunity to get ahead of some people who want to sit on the sidelines. When you have a 1 month supply of houses and a few buyers stop looking, you still have a ton of buyers out there looking. So, and as you can see from the comments here, we're still seeing a lot of activity.
Anything else?
I think that's it for questions. Oh, wait, here we go. Now, some people have emailed me the new disclaimer that's being attached to the showing time, where it says, if you are scheduling this showing, you are hereby verifying that everybody's healthy and in good, condition. The truth is about the COVID-19 is it's got a 15-day incubation period. So I think that you just want to use your brain, and you want your clients to be able to be the ones to take the chances and determine if they want to show the house, if they want to hold an open house. Your clients are the ones who have to take on that risk.
Yeah, you know what, guys? This is the world of the unknown right now in many ways, and so whenever you're living in that type of an environment, it requires each of us to go over and above. And so I think that we have to maybe create a recommendation sheet for our buyers, and not telling them what to do, but just making recommendations on, having the Lysol, wipes, and having the antibacterial hand wash, and they have to do it regularly. And it's just, we have to encourage them to go overboard in everything that they do. But there's a lot of people that are going to continue moving forward. Their world's not stopping. And on the other hand, there's those people that are really scared to death. And so we're just kind of walking down that middle of that road of, we're not trying to shut anybody down, but we're also not encouraging. We have part of our staff right now is working off site. We have taken every precaution we can internally to protect the staff. So we're doing our part, short of just closing the offices down completely, which is what banks and lawyers and CPAs and others have done. We have not gone to that point yet, but we reserve the right to change our minds here by the end of the week based upon all the news that's coming out.
Andrea Campos said that no social gathering should mean no open houses, period. I think that there are, and again, not to create an argument, but there are ways to do this in an orderly fashion. For example, people could wait in their vehicles. They could enter in one at a time. We heard that someone had an open house last week and everyone was waiting in their vehicles, and each person got a chance to walk through the home with disinfectant and sanitizer, gloves, footies, and was able to walk through the home in private with their realtor. So that was happening.
No children.
Yeah, you could say only
things.
one. Yeah. So I'm just saying that there are ways to do this. For example, right now I can tell you there are. I was just talking to a doctor who's relocating to Grand Rapids. Her job starts in 2 months, and she has no choice but to buy a house between now and then. So they're going forward purchasing a house no matter what. So, anyways.
I think that unless there's any more questions, if they keep coming in, we will please send us your questions. We want to make sure that we deal with everything. We don't want to leave anything unturned right now in this environment. So keep sending them in, and we will answer them. But I think at this time here, we're going to call it and sign off. We stay safe, do the right thing. We're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. It might be. We may have some tough days ahead of us here, but we just want to encourage each of you. I did hear something today I want to leave you with, that, we all have like two minds at the minimum. Some of us probably have more than two minds, but one is the emotional mind, and the other one is the logical mind. The emotional mind will not work well in this environment. This environment really calls and demands for the logical mind, and so we just want to encourage you to use logic, be smart, think it through. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. And we just want to encourage all of you to be kind to each other. We don't all agree. And we just want people to show kindness and respect to one another. So I'll leave you with that. Have a great day.
All right, guys. See ya. Have a great day.